So I want to make a very, very quick intro to our next panel conversation. It's a big one. We got 4 people talking about out-of-home advertising, because obviously as cities grow, one of the big partners in the landscape change is OOH advertising. And so we have Jeremy Mayle, CEO of OUTFRONT Media, Jean-Francois Decaux, Co-Chief Executive of JCDecaux, William Eccleshare, Global Chairman of Clear Channel Outdoor, all being moderated by the wonderful Anna Baker from OAAA. I'll leave the panel to you guys. Go for it.
Welcome, Jean-Francois Decaux, William Eccleshare, and Jeremy Mayle. You are the top leaders of the top global outdoor media companies, and I'm so excited to be here on stage with you today. While we are not in Cologne together at DMEXCO in person, at least we are connecting via Zoom, and we are very thrilled to chat with each other, to chat with you on the future of urbanization and how out-of-home advertising enhances cityscapes, makes city better, and also provides great opportunities for advertisers. So thank you again for being here with me today. Thank you, audience, for joining us. I think we'll have a really good and insightful conversation. Coronavirus pandemic has obviously impacted industries across the planet, and out-of-home advertising during a stay-at-home mandate was particularly affected, I think, in all of our markets. But it is bouncing back already and in many places. So I wanted to ask you, how resilient has the out-of-home industry been in your markets, and how fast do you expect your business to rebound in 2021 and beyond? So I'll start with you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks very much, Anna. And it's fair to say that I think 2020 will be a year that the out-of-home industry will be pleased to forget. The combination of lockdowns and macro was obviously really difficult in just about every country around the world, and particularly in the second quarter. But as we look forward, you know, the markets all look better in Q3, and the expectation is for an improvement in Q4. So when we look into 2021, maybe you just have to think of the history, and the history is we've had years and years of outpacing all media growth, growing our market share. I believe that the structural growth story for out-of-home is alive and very, very real. Magna have the US forecast growth for out-of-home next year is 9%. So immediately that's going to once again be, expectation is that we're going to be ahead of all media. So I think 2021 is going to be a year of reset. I think 2022 will be when we're knocking on the door of the previous levels of out-of-home. But we, for one, feel, you know, good about where we're going. Audiences are returning, and yeah, looking forward to getting out of 2020 for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Jean-Francois, what do you say?
Yeah, we launched before the summer the so-called mobility tracker, which assesses the level of recovery in urban mobility and audiences. And France is, for example, now at 95% versus pre-lockdown. US, unfortunately, is at 60%. For example, a city like Boston is at 70%, Chicago only at 50%. So this is the reason why France and the German-speaking part of Europe are leading the pack in terms of revenue recovery in Q3 and Q4. A country like Sweden in the Nordic area didn't have any lockdown, and it was the best performing market in Q2. So it's very clear that the lockdown was the main issue for out-of-home in the second quarter. And in terms of performance by subdivision, street furniture and billboard are recovering faster than transport, which is obviously still affected by social distancing, including airport advertising, which obviously is lacking international travel. And for 2021, I would agree with Jeremy. I mean, Group M is predicting a 15% rebound for out-of-home, which would be ahead of digital at about 11%, and total media would be about 8%. So I can't wait for 2021.
Well, I'm certainly not going to disagree with what the other two gentlemen have said. I would say we're seeing very similar. Couple of other points I'd make. I mean, I think if 2020 is something we want to forget, I would say Q2 is something we would absolutely want to forget. And the encouraging thing is that as the audiences have returned, as Jean-Francois said, as audiences have returned, revenue has returned very quickly as well. So I think that gives us great cause for encouragement as we look forward into 21. And the other point, just to build on what Jeremy said, is that if we look more broadly at the impact of COVID, I think what we see, and it's almost become a cliche of the crisis, is that COVID has accelerated trends that were there anyway. And so that is why we absolutely believe that the trend towards out of home that we were seeing on a macro level across the world, that out of home was growing faster than any other traditional media, we absolutely believe that that will continue as we go into 21 and beyond. So insofar as one can be optimistic during a global pandemic, I actually do start to feel reasonably optimistic about where we're headed into next year.
That's really good to hear. Yeah, I think we're all feeling some winds of hope are really kind of coming our way. The United Nations, they predict that 68% of the global population will live in cities by the year 2050. They're modern, mobile consumers that will shop online, care more about value than brands, and will live in neighborhoods where proximity matters. Obviously something important to our industry. How can out of home help advertisers reach urban consumers in new, innovative ways?
Well, I mean, I'm taking this as a question, assuming that COVID doesn't fundamentally alter the nature of the way cities operate. And I think, we just don't know. So let's assume, for the sake of this, that things continue much as they have done in terms of the way cities operate. But I think for me the issue around creativity is we need to have advertisers continue to recognize the ways in which out of home can connect directly with consumers and use its flexibility, particularly with digital, to provide relevant and contextual messages to consumers and to their customers on the streets. And I think we increasingly see that. I think the other thing that we're really seeing is that out of home is helping municipalities reach their objectives in terms of providing greater connectivity between a city and its citizens. And that's using relevant messaging around environment, around transport, and around infrastructure that really enable the city to feel it is getting closer to its citizens. And I think out of home has had a fantastic role to play in that. And I think it's worth saying we've played our part during the crisis. I think communicating latest health information, I've seen this both across Europe and in the US, communicating government information around COVID and the latest instructions around lockdowns or around health and safety measures. I think we fulfilled a fantastic role in that and can be very proud as an industry in terms of what we've done. And that could well set a model for the future in terms of those kinds of communications. So that's how I see it, of using the greater flexibility that our medium now has to give greater relevance, greater connectivity, and greater topicality.
With the introduction of 5G technology, cities will become much smarter, and 5G will allow for more data. It will make AI possible on grand scale and allow for the Internet of Things to accelerate. So how can the out-of-home industry be part of the smart cities transformation, and what exciting new ad platforms and services will out-of-home companies be able to offer brands in the future?
As the pioneer and leader in street furniture, with nearly 300 engineers working in our R&D department, we have a long track record for innovation. And a lot of these new innovations are based on connected devices, like bike sharing system, like interactive kiosks and public Wi-Fi systems. For example, on the Champs-Élysées last year, we had 1 million people accessing our free Wi-Fi system. 5G will provide faster and more reactive connectivity, and will accelerate the Internet of Things, and digital out of home will benefit from that. Three things. First of all, 5G will be able to deliver real streaming on any digital out-of-home panel that would today require an expensive fiber connection. That's point number one. Point number two, if any out-of-home media player wants to take advantage of 5G and the IoT, we will need to process a lot more data than we do today. So we need to, I think, improve our capacity to analyze the data and transform this data into a competitive advantage to fuel the programmatic platforms, which is the way how we can target consumers on the way to work, on the way to shop around the world. And finally, coming back to what William was saying, I think that in terms of creativity on the marketing side, on the marketer's side, 5G will also help to create new interactive experiences between the consumers and some of their interactive devices, like smartwatches, like their connected cars. So that's what 5G can deliver for digital out-of-home.
Transit systems serve as it's a critical transportation artery in many large cities, and we believe that it will, continue to be very important. In fact, probably more prominently serve that in the future. So you run a lot of those transit systems in the U.S. and New York and DC and many other places. How are out-of-home companies developing exciting new transit-focused offerings for advertisers?
Okay, so thanks, Anna. Maybe going back to something that William said earlier on regarding cities. I'm firmly in the camp that cities actually will take an increasing share of GDP as we go forward. There may be a blip over the next year or two, but I'm firmly in that camp. And to Jean-Francois' point also, and your reference, it's taking a little while for audiences to rebuild within transit, but they will come back, and that these cities of the future cannot function without public mass transit. So we feel great about cities, and we feel great about transit for the medium term as audiences recover. And as those audiences recover, what they're coming back to is an increasingly benign environment. The whole passenger experience, as we build out displays together with transit authorities, be it in Boston or New York or Washington or in San Francisco, the whole passenger experience is being elevated. So when we're able now to provide far more up-to-date information through our digital screens, we're managing information on behalf of the transit authority. It's not only about information, it's then about media, but on top of media, it's then about content. So we have a product called Moments, which is, it's a weather, it can be a news service, it can be a up-to-date sports score feature, whatever it happens to be. All of this can, be great for the traveling public, and therefore, also great for transit authorities. So it's a really symbiotic relationship. And frankly, I don't think it would have come about without the out-of-home industry working together with transit authorities.
How important is the creative process, and how can marketers take advantage of the potential that's quite unique, actually, that out-of-home provides for brands? Having a large or small, but a canvas that you can entirely own. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then also maybe give some examples of, or a best example of an out-of-home campaign that has been improving the cityscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think on creativity, the first thing to remember, regardless of whether you're using digital out-of-home or traditional classic out-of-home, is that out-of-home has always provided a fantastic creative canvas for brands. I mean, I started my career in the creative side in advertising agencies, and we would always say, if you can make the idea work on a poster, you've got a great advertising idea. And so I still think those basic rules apply as much today as they ever have for our medium. It is a great brand building medium. And we talk about the power of the public promise, the fact that brands are showing such confidence in themselves when they're up there on a billboard or on a piece of street furniture. They're making a promise in public. It's not just a one-to-one, it's a one-to-many opportunity. So I think simplicity is absolutely key in great out-of-home advertising, and that's as true today, as I say, as it ever was. But I think what we're seeing now is an opportunity to use our medium in new and more imaginative ways than ever, because of that ability to be relevant to a particular moment in the day, or a particular location, or a particular news event. And so I encourage advertisers to really think about those new creative opportunities and those new opportunities for engagement. And it's kind of invidious, I think, to pick a single advertiser. So I'm not going to do that. But what I would say is, I do think those advertisers, even during this crisis, that have recognized the moment, recognized the particular issues that their consumers are facing in relation to their brands, and brought that to life in an imaginative and exciting way. I think those are the advertisers that are going to be winning and are using our medium to its absolute maximum.
Yeah, I mean, I think this last year or 7 months or whatever it's been has been some of the most interesting creatively in years. How advertisers have been thinking and messaging and what really resonates with consumers. So in that way, there's a little bit of a silver lining in the crisis. The ones who have done a good job have done a really immense job and been very innovative in what they've done.
I really agree with that, and I do think that, you know, when and if, let's assume we all get back to Cannes next summer, or when the great creative ad festivals start rolling again, I think it's those advertisers that will find that they're being recognized, who really captured the moment and captured that magic that we can communicate. Yeah,
I agree. And so there are some positives here that we've gained in this quite awful year that we've been in. But coming back to the city, and I think we've established that out of home plays a very important role in the local communities, larger communities, creatively on big screens in transit systems. We're really part of the city in a very vibrant way. But what matters to consumers is, of course, not just, you know, messaging and getting inspired as to what to buy or what to do. It's also that everything works and that everything is sustainable, and you know, we care more about that now than I think we've done in the past. So, Jean-Francois, I want to talk a little bit about global climate change and how that is impacting cities across the planet, and, you know, the fact that, you know, we all have to care about it, and brands care more about sustainability now. Decaux has been known as a pioneer in sustainability since the 1960s. You've really invested a lot of time and resources when it comes to that. And as somewhat of an expert in it, you could say, I want to ask you what out-of-home companies and probably others too can do today to accelerate sustainability efforts, and give, if you can, please give some great examples of effective programs that you've seen or run.
Yeah. As you said, Anna, sustainability is an important part of our DNA. We pioneered the concept of free bike sharing 17 years ago in the Austrian capital city of Vienna, paving the way for a bike revolution around the world. Mayor Bloomberg flew then to Paris to have a look at our system called Velib. Today, almost every single major city around the world has a free bike sharing program. And with COVID-19 now, a lot of people are using those bikes more and more. In London, where I live, William lives there as well, you have more bike lanes than ever. Boris Johnson, when he was mayor, implemented a huge bike lane program. So it's, I think, the most, as far as we're concerned, the most impactful new product development that we ever did. Because it didn't come from a public transport company. It came from an out-of-home media company, which makes money by selling ads on street furniture, billboard, or panels in transit systems. So I think that's something that needs to be recognized.
Thank you for that. And again, I just want to reinforce, being fairly new to out of home, that there's a lot more work to do, absolutely. But I'm very proud of our industry and the measures that we're taking to move this important issue forward, even in troubling times, such as the ones we're in today. We don't have a lot of time, so I want to start wrapping this interesting conversation up. I want to ask all of you a really quick question. Maybe I'll start with you, Jeremy, just on what you think are the biggest opportunities for the global out-of-home industry, or maybe the U.S. out-of-home industry, since you're active in that market, in the coming year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think the opportunities for global very much mirror those for the US. As I said earlier on this call, I fundamentally believe that the structural growth story for out of home is alive and well. I've been in the industry 25 years, and I've never felt, more strongly how, well placed we are as an industry. Globally, out of home is 6-7%, so there's a total media, so there's a huge portion to go for. And of that other media, an increasing amount of that is digital. And I think that as OUTFRONT continues to develop its digital offering, and it's doing that in two ways, we are increasing the amount of digital furniture or screens or canvases that we have out in the real world. And we're also improving the way that we can connect with those screens in terms of automation and programmatic trading. So this year, programmatic in the US, for example, out of home is estimated 180 million of a 60 billion market, 60 billion programmatic digital advertising market. So we're only scratching the surface. Next year, it's out of homes anticipated to double to 360 million. We have such huge opportunity as a medium. If you look at the top 200 advertisers, they're still only spending 2% of their dollars out of home. So we've got 98% of dollars to go through. But I think that the key to accessing those dollars will be digital, as I say, in terms of both hardware and software.
Yeah, I fully agree. There's definitely a good growth story in there. William and Jean-Francois, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize around, I think our future is all around technology. I would emphasize, as Jeremy has, that technology is not just in the screens on the streets, but it's about data, it's about how we use data. And to me, it is particularly around demonstrating to advertisers the return on the investment they make. So if we're going to get that 98% of their budgets that Jeremy mentions, we will get that because we can show the value of our medium. And the more we do that, the more accountable we are as a medium, the faster our growth will be.
Thank you, William.
I can only agree with what Jeremy and William just said. I mean, basically, the media landscape is a very competitive industry with two giants, which clearly dominate online, which is, as Jeremy said, 2/3 of online revenues are programmatic, which is why about 2 years ago, we launched an initiative called View, which is a trading platform, programmatic trading platform, which is now live in 16 markets. And we want this trading platform to be agnostic and to be independent. And we are having discussions with our competitors right now as we speak. No one has joined for the time being, but I hope that some people will join, because at the end of the day, to be able to compete effectively against the big guys like you name it, Google, Facebook, I think having one platform would be a tremendous benefit.
Yeah, well, that for all the tech companies in the audience, I know there are a few. That's an opportunity for you. I would say that yeah, programmatic is definitely one of the biggest opportunities for our industry going forward. I think that's why it's important that we're having these conversations. I think we need to educate the marketplace on what you can do in out of home, how you can use data, how you can, with 5G technology and AI and other tools at your hand, how you really can use an incredibly powerful medium to get your message out in a very good way. So I don't know that the world knows about all the things you can do, and I think it's on us to educate them and make sure that they know about our medium. So that would be, for me, if I were to say one takeaway that I think is important out of this conversation, it really is that, you know, you can do a lot with out of home in a digital sense globally. That I don't think that advertisers nor some tech companies who can help us know about. If I give you a final question, what would be the one short takeaway you would want the audience to walk away from here at DMEXCO or wherever they are about out-of-home advertising. I'll start with you, William.
Just remember how flexible out of home now is. Out of home is one of the most flexible, immediate, dynamic media out there. And if you want to be on one of our screens tomorrow, we can get you there.
Thank you. Jean-Francois?
Out of home is good for your life.
Love it. Jeremy?
Come to out of home because we can cut through the clutter that if you're advertising digitally, you are right in the midst of. Come to us, we can make your brand famous.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that was a really good ending point. And I believe that everyone on this call, even if you're sitting at home, you will see an out-of-home ad today. I think most people do. So think about that as you're walking the streets, driving your car, or taking the subway somewhere. I want to thank DMEXCO for letting us be a part of this and letting out of home be a part of the agenda. I think it's such an important topic, and I think it's telling that we are invited to this, that it really is. So thank you to DMEXCO, and thank you to the audience for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, come to out of home. It's good for your life.
Okay, and now Bisbal in Washington.